Hello everyone, my name is Evan Abbey and we are going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. But before we do, I wanted to do a quick introduction of myself and then do some housekeeping items. I am the project manager for online learning for AEAPD Online, and AEAPD Online is a partner with the CoPI work that has been done in the state in the past, and we're continuing the work forward. We do a lot of behind the scenes things, such as Moodle hosting and instructional design support for the creation of e-curriculum. And we also do professional development for teachers on how to teach in a blended learning format. We'll talk about all those things later on today. But before we do, I am going to go ahead and enable um, microphones for now. We will see if it causes any issues as we go. The way these microphones are set up is that there's only one speaker at a time. It's kind of like the ICN setup for today. So we'll have to wait for the present speaker to stop speaking before we open it up for questions. You are welcome to use the chat pod down in the lower left-hand corner to ask questions. You can go ahead and click in there and type and then hit the little conversation bubble, or click the return button, and that will add that item to the chat pod. We will refer to the chat pod because there's some summer courses that we've listed there we'll be talking about at the end of our session today. And links to the registration is in that chat pod, pretty much up at the top of the item, so you can scroll through that at your leisure. One word of advice, make sure that you mute your microphone if you are not talking. Since we do have the single speaker mode on, that should take care of a lot of the feedback issues that we have, but just in case, it's a best practice to go ahead and do that. Also, I'm using my trusty Apple iPod earbuds. So if you're by yourself on a computer, that's a good way to also prevent feedback. Again, it shouldn't be as much of an issue since we're in single speaker mode today, but one of the things that people will say is that when you join CoPI, you become a member of many more Adobe Connect Pro meetings. We do a lot of meetings from a distance via this tool. So if you have never used this tool before, it's a good experience. So, all right, with that said, I am going to go ahead and let's see, just mute my mic and turn it over to Nancy. I'm not seeing him there. I don't know if Nancy's in the room yet or not. I will switch to Rob instead. So without further ado, Rob, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, everyone should be able to hear us now. Nancy and I are together, so I'll let Nancy introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. This is Nancy Movil, and I am in the room with Rob Brookhart. And thank you for joining us today and for your interest in the Iowa Blended Learning Community of Practice. What we have on schedule for today for our agenda is just a sharing of where we've been, kind of what our story has been, and how you might join us in this effort of working towards more blended learning and also working towards those ideals of the Iowa Core, Common Core. And as we've talked in the past, we're all kind of doing this work at the same time, and are we better off doing this work together? So that's the story we would like to share today. And the slide you see here is really a slide that exemplifies that notion of community. We've had the motto of better together for the past couple of years as we've done this work. And we feel that this African proverb, if you go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together, really highlights what we're thinking. So as we are doing our work in more blended environments and thinking about the implications of Iowa Core, it really does make sense that we work at this together in practice. Often how we are missing, you're missing some of the graphics that I have here. I apologize. This is a model of of learning that we often do. And in the large circle, the word theory should have been there. And then the other two circles should be practice and reflection. That was kind of how we typically are taught, but we believe in a lot of what we do as in the community of practice, the larger circle is now the practice circle. And we learn together in practice, and then we access theory and reflection continuously to improve that practice. So it's a bit of that flip of how we typically do our professional learning. This is now being engaged in the practice together and making continuous calibrations and continuous improvements by working together over time. So today we're going to talk to you about what we've done so far with the community of practice concept. We are going to share our story because the stories of our work become very important. And this graphic, we're going to kind of step through how it is that we approached each one of these steps of what a community of practice means. And one of our great stories is that of Joni Becker and what blended learning and being in this community meant to her and her work, and how she had access to others and also had that time for practice and reflection with others as she moved to a more blended learning environment. So with that, I'd like to introduce Joni Becker, and she will talk about her transformation story. Joni? She doesn't have a mic on. Can she just...
Joni, you should be able to turn on your mic up at the top where you see the speaker and kind of the little green microphone.
How does she want to share her screen? You can tell her we'll run them. We have no mic selection.
Hi there, can you all hear me now? Great. I'm going to share my screen with you right now by the looks of it. Oh, no. I can't do a share screen, so can we go back to the PowerPoint through Nancy, please? Great to hear you too, Tim. Nancy, I need the PowerPoint back up. I can't share my screen. I apparently don't have some technology piece. Thank you. Just some information about me real quick is that I'm a science teacher in Charles City High School. I teach chemistry and inquiry to science, and I've been teaching for 10 years now. I first started the CoPI as a fluke. I got an email, and it sounded kind of techie, and I'm kind of techie, so I joined the CoPI. And on our first meeting, I got to see what we're all about. Can you go to the next slide for me, please? This graphic that Nancy put together for us really shows how I think our group worked. We all got together and we met each other for lots of different reasons. If you could go to the next slide, please. When I came to the CoPI, I had my head swirling, full of things in education that everyone was trying to throw at me at once, and I didn't know how they were all supposed to fit together. We had Common Core standards, we had STEM education, we had all this technology coming into our classrooms in the one-to-one environment, and I didn't know how we were supposed to put all of that together into our classrooms. It just seemed completely overwhelming. So I'm sure I wasn't the only one that had a million and one things going on in their heads. If you go to the next slide, please. When we all got together and we formed the Iowa Communities of Practice, we learned to take all of those things that we had swirling around in our head and trust each other enough to try to work them out together. Now, working them out together is the part that is the difference, because if we want to blend our classrooms into using technology and to helping our students with a whole bunch of different needs and wants and issues, they have to work together. And usually educators don't work all that much together in our professional development. So we got to live that first and become better models for how to do that in our classrooms. So we built this community of everybody is all at different places, but we're okay with that, and that we agree to help each other out. Next slide, please. After our first basic big meeting where we all got together, we've also used a whole bunch of technology to share how we're doing and keep involved. So much of education is done in isolation, and the CoPI doesn't work in isolation. We get together, we have Skypes, we work on our Twitter streams, we chat on Google, we have Adobe Connect meetings that teach us how to work in an environment that uses technology not just for technology's sake, but as a tool to learn and grow together. So we swap and share things over digital and face-to-face environments, which is that blended idea. Now, it's really almost impossible to blend your classroom if you've never lived a blended environment. Well, the CoPI teaches you how to be in a blended environment first, and then translating that into your classroom becomes simple. If you would go to the next slide, please. So we share a practice together, and I'd like to show you a short video. Nancy, do you have my video that I sent?
We're gonna take the two bathrooms down.
Oh.
You guys can go and use the other
After you've seen that video, I hope you kind of understand a little bit about that your classroom is going to change when you become part of the CoPI. If you'll notice that I don't stand in front of my classroom anymore. I am down working with the students. You'll notice that the teachers come down to their level and you're working with the kids. It's a totally different way of looking and working in your classroom. Now that is really, really scary to totally shake up everything that you've done. And that's why the CoPI is so powerful. If you want to make a blended classroom, it is completely different than the education we grew up with. So knowing how to run that kind of classroom and experiencing it first as an educator and then as a leader is something that the CoPI offers for you. So one of the basic things that I figured out was that I was really good at technology, but I wasn't really good at integrating it into my classroom seamlessly. It was just that extra thing that was always added in, and I tried to put it in whenever I could, but it wasn't like part of my classroom. When you're going to build a blended classroom in today's society, technology is part of their everyday lives. They do everything on their technology. If your classroom isn't blended, your students are not engaged because they have their phones with them all the time. They have their computers with them all the time. They are logged in and plugged in all the time. So if you don't know how to run a classroom that way, you're obsolete. I didn't know how to run a classroom that way. I was overwhelmed by that even idea. Plus adding all these other things I had to put into there like Common Core and STEM, and I was just like, what am I going to do? And I got a lot of comfort and I got a lot of support when I joined the CoPI. I found out that I was actually a little bit more of an expert than I realized, and that I could quickly pick up things, and that when I didn't know something, there was somebody right there that I could talk to. Either I could send them a tweet, shoot an email, maybe even one or two at my district that I could walk down the hall and be like, hey, you and I are both going through this same kind of idea together. Let's work together. So you can be anywhere in the community and come in and out of your different zones. You'll notice in the graphic that we have up here that there's times when you're going to be really, really active and really working on changing your classroom. There's going to be times when you're just going to be practicing and you want to just kind of see how it goes, and you shift maybe out to the occasional level, or maybe you're just hanging on the edge and then you can come back in. I love that about the CoPI because you never have to be always in one role. You can come in and come out as what you need. And it really helped me out. If you could go to the next slide, please. We have been putting together recently a curriculum that goes with the CoPI. And in addition to learning how to do a blended classroom, we have to have the tools to do the blending. There are endless supplies of technological tools for curriculum. And there's so many out there on the market that it's hard to tell what's good and what's not good. And we as a CoPI got together and realized even the ones that were the best ones on the market weren't really that good. So we decided, let's write our own. So we've been taking the curriculum that we have found and we're putting it together to write a common curriculum that we all use. Now that really is a powerful tool, because then when you're working in your classroom, you already have a whole community of people that are doing the exact same kinds of things that you can get a hold of when you want to help a student better understand something, or you're having a technology problem, which when you're going to do a blended classroom, you're going to have some technology problems that you can always get together. So we all share not only our philosophy, but we share the curriculum that goes with it. So we're not all doing different things in isolation anymore. It's very, very powerful for me to call up one of my colleagues like Marcia and say, hey, Marcia, having trouble with the Matter unit. What do you have for ideas on this? We even build units together. We can do it face-to-face or digitally. So we're currently working on some units for the Iowa STEM movement, changing up some of our tools and putting them organized in a way that meets math, technology, engineering, and science. So it's been a revolutionary idea of how we can work together to make all of this stuff that we have going on, like Common Core and STEM and blended learning and one-to-one environments, all come together in one place with one focus. And it's not scary anymore because we're together in it. Next slide, please. So as you can see, this cycle kind of comes in and out, and we just keep going around. The best part is all along the way, when you're living this experience, you naturally can take it into your classroom and have your students do the same kinds of thing that you're doing on a professional learning level. You can take it down to the classroom level. So it's kind of that practice what we preach thing. So there's no gap between when you practiced it in your professional development and when you do it in your classroom, because the professional development is working for your classroom. It's all happening at the same time, but wonderful in the same way. Thank you. Just a little review for the community practice.